Especially being a mother, I am always open to learning from sources of authority. And in this case, we have Pastor Raphael, who is going to introduce himself and say hello to you. Pastor Raphael, karibu sana to the Nest.
Thank you, asante sana.
It is such an honor to have you here and for you to take your time to come all the way and sit here with us on the Nest. And we can't wait to hear all the teachings and the wisdom of how to raise children in a godly way in this technology world. So please say hi to the viewers and introduce yourself and what you do.
Okay, I'm Raphael Yafa. I'm privileged to be the lead servant of Living Springs Chapel in Ongata Rongai. Ongata Rongai is in the diaspora.
Yes.
Yeah, bordering Kenya and you.
I see what you did there, but you have the best mbuzi.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah. So I'm predominantly a spiritual leader, pastor.
Yes.
But I'm really big on empowerment. My desire is to see people get critical information at the various stages of their lives to become all they are called to be and to enjoy and maximize their potential to the fullest.
Absolutely.
So I'm really excited about the show today because it's one of the most critical ones. And I hope that our discussion will empower our viewers to possibly they'll glean one or two things that will help them in raising up their children as well. I'm married. I have one beautiful daughter. She's she's 11.
Oh.
And yes, so far we have one, but hatujamaliza bado tunaamini Mungu. Yes.
That's so wonderful. And children are a blessing from the Lord.
Yes, they are.
And it's amazing to have warriors like yourself, in as much as you are a servant of God, but what you're doing is fighting the war, because we are in a world that has taken up a new world order, the opposite. And we know we have the kingdom of God and the other kingdom. And there's always this pull where our children are being pulled away to be turned against what God intended. And it's so, please take that from me, add it on your list, a warrior.
Thank you.
Yes, a warrior, and I do pray that God will bless you in ways that He has intended to bless you. All right, so today we're talking about raising children in a godly way. Like I say, it's such a personal lesson for me. So in as much as our viewers are watching and hearing, I'm also taking notes because I really enjoy this. So where does it start? How does it start from the very beginning? You could walk us through that.
Possibly, I think I need to let our viewers know. There's a saying, success without a successor is failure in disguise.
Wow, success without a successor is failure in disguise. That's very powerful.
So our children are inevitably our successors in life.
Yes.
So they are a reflection of who we are, not only intrinsically, but who we are outward.
Absolutely.
And so when people want to look at us, they'll not actually look at us, they'll look at our children because they are our representation, our image.
Yes.
And that's why God is normally big on the church being an accurate representation of who He is.
Yes.
Because His children are seen as His representation. So when talking about this subject, it becomes then very, very important and critical that we lay the relevant emphasis so that we don't take it lightly.
Yes.
I love the question you say, where does it start? And I think I just want to create a brief foundation for people to understand,
the context,
so that people can actually get the whole picture. First of all, I'll begin by saying that life is spiritual.
It is. I agree.
Yes, life is absolutely spiritual, and everything that we see existing in the natural once existed as an intangible thing in the realm of the spirit. So for us to fully conquer what we see here, we must have some knowledge of what the supernatural or the spiritual entails or contains. So when we understand that fact, then we are able to at least be empowered to know that over and above the values we try to impart on our children through teachings and through our exposure, there is a spiritual element that we must possess in order to be very successful. Though the scripture tells us that raise up a child in the way they should go, when they are grown, they will not depart. By the virtue of my office, I've had the privilege of sitting down with several parents who did their best in raising their children, but at the end of it, they didn't turn out as they raised them.
Yes.
And so they had a very, very big concern and questioning the scriptures, saying, I did my best, but how come my child didn't turn out?
Yes.
And when I did a study on this, I discovered that that word train up a child in the original context, in the Hebrew context, it simply means start off a child. It means to start off. It has a connotation of foundation. And when it talks about start off a child, it has really nothing or less to do with what we do in the natural than what we do in the spiritual.
Absolutely.
So in lieu of that, let me say this. God made man co-creators with him.
Very true.
Through the principles of perpetuation. He created one man, one woman, and he never created men after that.
True.
Because he wanted man and woman to be a co-creator with him in creating a human being.
Absolutely.
So what normally happens when a man and a woman come together in copulation, what they do is they give a platform in which God deposits the spirit of that man.
Yes, yes.
So we normally say man is a spirit, he has a soul, he lives in a body.
Yes.
So why I have a body and a soul is just to make me relevant on the earth.
Very true.
So I am essentially a spirit, just for purposes of understanding. I have a soul that gives me my personality, my rationale, and I have a body that helps me interact with people here. So when, for example, when my father and my mother came together, they provided the soil in which the seed of my spirit was planted.
Yes.
So what that means then is whatever weaknesses they had, whatever struggles they had, became the soil in which I was started from.
Yes.
Are you getting the point?
100%.
So when you read start of a child in the way they should go, it doesn't begin by when the child is born. That's when you begin to instill values. It begins by, from the standpoint, when I'm not yet married, I need to deal with the struggles of my life, because that is what I'm bringing on the table for my children. And that's why studies have proven that when you have a biological father who had several struggles or sicknesses, some of them inevitably pass on to the children, because that is the soil they brought in which the seed, which is the spirit of man, was planted. So as the child grows, the spirit is pure. As the child grows, the spirit becomes suppressed, and the nature, the true nature of the soil begins to find effect. So you'll find that no matter what you teach physically, they may get it at that point, but inevitably the conditions around will overwhelm what you taught.
I see.
So now you find young people having struggles. You trained a child that they should fear God, they should love God, respect people, have certain values. But you find that as they grow in life, they are depicting the opposite. And you begin to wonder what's the problem. It's because the soil in which they were planted was wrong. So this is what I just want to say, especially to people intending to be parents. Remember, you are co-creator with God. So it's not only God bringing his attributes to this child through the spirit of that child, but it is you also bringing in whatever struggles you carried. So if you had issues with alcoholism, if you had issues with promiscuity, if you had issues with theft, I mean certain funny things, inevitably those will be given or transmitted to your child. So what you need to do is to spend a lot of time to make sure that you enroll yourself in God's rehabilitation center, to make sure that it's thoroughly formed you, that you don't do your child a disservice by providing a wrong soil. So remember, our children are a reflection of who we are.
Absolutely.
And something very powerful, and I hope everybody will get this. What our children depict is not what we teach physically, is who we are.
They model, they see what we do, and that's what they absorb.
Actually, even more than that, they model who we are. You know, I can teach you something good, but be rotten at the core.
Yes, yes.
So what I teach is not what you will live with. You will live with who I am.
Yes, yes.
So what I impart on my children is not what I express through my verbal communication.
I've come to learn that the hard way.
Or what I try to model and show or pretend for the time I'm with them.
Yes, yes.
That either I love your mom, let's pray together. My child can see that, but what's imparted on my child is really who you are.
Thank you.
So here you are loving my mom, yet you have 3 other women outside.
Yes.
So what they'll get is that 3 women.
True.
Not just what I'm telling them.
Yes.
So that's what I'm saying. I need to enroll into God's Rehabilitation Center, quote unquote, through prayer, through having a good faith community, to make sure that certain things that I don't want to see in my child are dealt with in my life.
Yes.
And I need to sit and think, what kind of children do I want to have? Do I want to have children that depict and model this kind of lifestyle or this other kind of lifestyle? So once I make up my mind, then I need to make sure I become that thing before I even think about getting a child.
Wow, that's very powerful.
So that is what it means, start off a child. So when that aspect is already set, now when I begin to offer physical trainings and when I begin to now model what a family should be, it becomes very easy because the spiritual elements have already been set in place.
Wow.
Yeah.
I feel like I just did a session in the God's Rehabilitation Center.
Oh, wow.
It's amazing. And you've answered every question that kept popping up because I'm thinking, yes, indeed. And we've seen it. And we take it lightly that, especially, let me use the example of, say, alcoholism or addiction to alcohol. And you can see it's predisposed, and people who give birth to children, later on they also become alcoholics. You'll even find a whole family that is just alcoholics.
True.
And that makes sense because you said it is who these 2 souls come together and produce this little person, but then there's hope because you can rehabilitate yourself and then give them an environment that will eliminate all those things. And not by pretending, it's by being who you are.
Exactly.
And by being who you are is the work that you need to do. And if you do that work, then automatically it will, my goodness, that is so powerful. That is really powerful. Now, a child has been born, let's say, and we know in Kenya there's a pandemic of single parenthood and all those things you're talking about, the promiscuity and a lot of other evil deeds that are happening, especially with fathers. We know we have a crisis of fatherhood. What would you tell that young person who already has a child or 2 and maybe they are either raising them alone or somehow now with a new age, co-parenting and all that, and you can tell you don't want this child around this person because you know their behaviors. How can they cover the children and cover themselves? And I know the answer will come around, do the same thing, but first, how can you encourage them, especially in terms of forgiving themselves, how to let go, and also knowing that there is this, maybe they are doing it right, but this other parent is not doing it right. Could you just balance that for them?
Okay. Maureen, kindly allow me to say this, that
yes, please.
While I'm speaking like this, I hope our viewers don't feel like I'm passing judgment.
Oh, no.
Or condemning anybody.
Yes.
We're just trying to give some indicators of what can be transmitted, of course.
Yes.
And now in addressing, particularly, we talk about single mothers, and the reason we have many actually is because many men didn't have role models. And actually whereas we may attack the young people, the men, as we call them community husbands, is because they never learned better.
Better.
They're only a reflection of somebody else's lifestyle.
Yes.
But now it has been amplified.
Yes.
You know, I normally say David had 7 wives.
Yes.
And Solomon 700.
100 and
so our children like multiply.
Yes.
You know what we are.
Yes.
And having said that, also, I'm not justifying the fact that you use that as an excuse to go impregnating every woman everywhere,
Absolutely,
saying I didn't have a role model.
Yes.
But talking about this lady that has a single mother, particularly, that has children, what is the first thing that you need to do? I think
Yes.
one, you really need to be honest and sincere with yourself. One of the greatest things is working with assumptions. Be honest with yourself and take responsibility of your part in that thing. And avoid the blame game malady.
Yes.
Because that is what eats up people.
Yeah.
You discovered in Psalm 51, one of the greatest things David prayed is, David said, I acknowledge my transgression. He didn't blame it on anybody.
Yes.
He didn't say, I was just roaming around the roof, me had nobody who told her to shower outside, and things like that. So, but he took the responsibility. I acknowledge my transgression. Okay,
exactly.
so
yes.
Now I have children. I didn't have good upbringing. What do I do? The God we serve is a God of second chances, and that's why I normally like to return or refer people back to God.
Yeah.
God is a God that will receive you anytime, anywhere. I mean, God is just God, and nobody can beat him at being God. So I have a child, and we are co-parenting with a man, or I'm doing it by myself. This is what I normally say. Pray for wholeness. First of all, like you said, you need to forgive yourself. Come to a place of loving yourself. Because remember, you cannot give what you don't have.
Exactly.
Actually, you cannot give who you are not.
And the opposite, you will give what you are.
Exactly.
Yes.
So if all you have is bitterness, anger, that is what you're going to impart in your children.
Yes.
So you really need to have practiced some self-love for you to be able to give. Your love bank needs to be full. Okay?
Yes.
So that you can freely begin to donate, give out freely love. So come to a place of healing. And how do you do that? Of course, you can't, at their journeys, you can't walk alone. You can connect with people that have been there and have done that, and let them walk you through it. Get into a church community and let them love you through it.
Yes.
And when you begin to love and appreciate yourself and you come to a place of wholeness, then that becomes very powerful, because now that you're going to reflect on your child. Secondly, what has happened has happened. I've discovered God has a unique way of transmitting fatherhood through the female gender.
Oh my goodness, can you tell us more about that, Pastor? Because I hear you.
Yes. That there are times where men fail to take responsibility, that God can come and reveal his fatherhood through your femininity. And you create an impact. So when your children look at you, they not only see a mother,
they see a father.
They see a father.
Yeah.
And how do somebody may tell me that may not be true, but let me tell you, our God is a father.
Yes.
Yet he has a way of still mothering us.
It's true.
Actually, he's called El Shaddai. The word El Shaddai means the breasted one.
Yes.
So it means that though he being a father is able to play the role of a mother uniquely, and the opposite is true.
Absolutely.
That he himself can help a woman express the virtues of fatherhood.
Absolutely.
Responsibility to the life of a son or a daughter, and at the same time be a mother to this same person, because somebody failed. Just because another person failed doesn't mean God will fail you.
Absolutely.
And you cannot begin to force and coerce people into taking responsibility in raising up their own children. That now becomes tricky, especially for most men. They'll begin to withdraw and run off. So what do? You tell God, I am here. Whenever your male aspect needs to find expression, I am here.
Thank you.
When the female aspect needs to find expression, I am here.
Yes.
So it means when I need to be a king, when I need to be a prophet and a priest in my home, I'm available.
Wow.
When I need to be a queen,
yes.
when I need to be a mother,
yes.
when I need to be tender and loving,
yes.
I'm also available.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
That's the first way.
Yes.
The second way normally God does is God can raise up men, responsible men, brothers and brothers, uncles, that can come and model the father figure to your children.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
So that you don't have a boy growing up to become lady, feminine nature. They don't know matters responsibility, matters of taking care of. So God can raise people to come and model that to your child.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
And when they do that, they can acquire and learn as much as possible, and the child can grow. And please notice that this is a process.
Yes.
Now, I think as a lady you need to do every part to make sure that you get enough support from your man. But a time comes, don't push, because you'll end up hurting yourself, demeaning yourself. Time is going. They are missing very important lesson in their lives, and you are blaming it that the man is not there. So you need just stand and say, God, I am available. Yes, this was not my design. I didn't want it to be this way. I wanted my children to have a father, but now the father is not there. But I am here and I'm available. And then lastly, I think you need to believe God for a godly man. And how to believe God for a godly man? I normally say, instead of going to post on Facebook and write I'm single, searching or whatever, I normally say, as a woman, just develop your nectar. The bees will find you.
Hallelujah.
Wherever you are, as long as you have nectar, bees will find you. That's what the Bible says, whoever finds a wife. So wives are found.
They are found.
They are found. So in other, there's a searching process. And they are not found on Facebook. They are found. So
they're found.
So as a woman, it says whoever finds a wife. So my concentration should be to develop myself to be a wife. It didn't say whoever finds a girl or whoever finds a woman, whoever finds a wife. So which means also I consistently, as a lady, you consistently come to the surgery table of Christ and say, make me a wife, because a wife is a different ballgame.
Very true.
A woman is different, a lady is different, but being a wife, that's a different ballgame. So God, make me a wife, because only wives attract husbands. And the reason most women are not married is just, by the way, is because you've not translated to become a wife yet.
Wow.
You are more of a knife than a wife. Because God will not give you a man to kill, because you have attitude problems, you have submission issues, your modus operandi is derived from secularism than the biblical inclination. So God first develops you to a place where he knows that you've become a wife. Then when you do, notice what Esther did. She was developed for 2 years or so and brought before the king, and the king said, this is the one.
That's the one.
So
I found her.
Increase your nectar value and God will bring you a godly man. And when he does, that man now becomes the real model to your children. And now we are living in dangerous times, because you don't want just to marry any other man. Because you'll find that you when you marry any other kind of man, you are a wife and your daughter is a co-wife. So you really need to be very careful. And that's why develop yourself so that God will bring the right man. But I'm saying there is hope to every person, especially all the single moms out there. It is possible to be raised by a mother and become responsible. My father died in 1986. I've been raised by mother as a widow. And look at how I turned out. I think I'm doing good.
Manly man, a man of God.
Yes,
honestly, you
by
turned
God's
out
grace.
great.
Yes, and she did model that.
Yes.
Of course, there were days I could see she was struggling.
Yes.
There are certain things she could not solve or resolve. And that's how God brought pastors in my life to help play that part that she could not play.
And here you are.
By God's grace.
Oh, wow. We're going to take a short break, a water break. Please feel free to sip and eat our biscuits. They're delicious.
Yeah,
as
they
we
look delicious.
gain energy for the second part. This is so exciting. That one, I'll just let it settle. It's so powerful and very straightforward. And I love how even if we're talking about raising children in a godly way, here you are giving hope and saying God is a God of second chances. God can create you and also fulfill what you're lacking. But then there are certain things you need to do, and that is to increase your nectar so that the bees can come. Wow, viewers, I don't know if you're feeling what I'm feeling. I have goosebumps all over the place. And like we say here, we inspire, we inform, and also educate. And today, from where I'm seated, I feel so inspired. I feel encouraged. I feel like my eyes are opened. And the fact that this is not a worldly way of doing things or learning things, but it is the spiritual way of doing it. What's better than that? Don't leave. We'll be right back.